when on July 14th was when Chandrayaan was supposed to take off. We had spoken to some people approximately 3 to 4 kilometers from here. It was at Godrej where the Vikas engine, which is an instrumental part of this entire Chandrayaan 3 project, was made. It was made very much in Mumbai. The story started from Mumbai. It is about to reach moon is what we're expecting.
हम जो अभी यहाँ पे प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं, पवित्र स्थान पे प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं, ये कहीं भी कर सकते थे हम लोग, लेकिन हम पवित्र स्थान पे मंदिर में बैठ के प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं कि इस बार जो चंद्रयान 3 पे उतरे और सफलतापूर्वक हमारे वैज्ञानिकों ने जो मेहनत किया है वो पूर्ण हो और भारत विश्व गुरु बने। ये हमारी मनोकामना है, ये हमारी शाम तक चलती रहेगी प्रार्थना कि ये जब तक लैंड नहीं करेगा।
It is our continuing coverage of India's date with the moon. One small step for ISRO and a giant leap for Indian space technology. For a billion Indians, this is what it boils down to. The next 45 minutes, there's bated breath, there is anticipation, there is the collective weight of a billion plus people. And you can see across the length and breadth of India, from Lucknow to Ranchi to Ujjain to Srinagar, people are offering prayers with one thing and only one thing in their mind, and that is the success of mission Chandrayaan 3. We are less than an hour away from touchdown. In 45 minutes, the automated landing sequence will begin. There will be the rough braking series and then the fine braking series, and between 5:45 and 6:04, in those 15 to 20 minutes is when the fate of a billion hopes will be decided. The fate of this mission Chandrayaan 3, which has seen blood and sweat and tears and toil, will come to a conclusion. We're all hoping, fingers crossed, that we will land on the moon today, that India will plant its flag, the Tiranga, on the surface of the moon. Prayers being offered right across the country, like I said, but what is going to happen in those last 15 minutes? That's what it boils down to. So I'm going to go and explain to you from our video wall here what to expect in those last 15 minutes. They're called the last 15 minutes of terror. Now, stage 1 is when the powered descent begins. Remember, this is when the automated landing sequence starts. At 5:47 is when the powered descent begins. The lander is about 25 to 30 kilometers away from the lunar surface. Then the lander starts hurtling down. Remember, at this stage, it's at about 6,000 kilometers per hour. That is 10 times the speed of average aircraft. Then from there, it slows down, its engines are firing, it's coming slowly down. The first phase is the rough braking phase from 6,000 kilometers per hour. It has to be brought down to a few hundred meters per second. Then there comes a stage where the lander is still horizontal to the moon's surface, and there is horizontal velocity as well. Then it shifts from horizontal to vertical position. When this happens, you have both the horizontal velocity as well as vertical velocity towards the moon's surface. It's the lunar gravity that's pulling the lander Vikram onto its surface. So both horizontal and vertical velocities come into play. Then you have the lander at less than a kilometer from the moon's surface. That is when the cameras kick in, the sensors kick in, the descent, engine-powered descent stops at about 800 meters above the lunar surface. Then the lander further goes down and there is the hovering phase. This is the final phase. The last 5 minutes or so, it's about 100-150 meters above the lunar surface. There, using optical imagers, sensors, cameras, of course, the lander then searches for the ideal landing spot. This time around, the spot is much bigger. It's about 4.5 kilometers in width and about 2.5 kilometers in length. So it's much wider than the landing site last time around. The lander then touches down with the engines firing. The landing legs are absolutely important because last time it couldn't take the weight of the lander. This time they've added more strength to the legs of the lander. The engines then shut down This is once the sensors start feeling the lunar surface, then it is simply going down on its own with lunar gravity. The lunar dust will then settle down. That's when we know that it is a successful touchdown. The ramp of the Vikram lander then opens up, the Pragyan rover rolls out, and then it will start exploring the surface of the moon. Both the rover Pragyan and the lander Vikram will be there for 14 days, 14 Earth days, 1 lunar day, sending data to back to mission control in Bengaluru. We have our reporters spread across the length and breadth at the ISRO center, the tracking center in Bengaluru, mission control that is. We have Harish Upadhyay and Shrishti Chaudhary. Here in Delhi, we have Arunima, where there is a live feed that's being made available to the who's who of Delhi. Purnima is joining us with a bunch of school kids from a prominent location in Chennai. But let me go to mission control first. Harish, all systems responding, all systems go. We've got what? Less than 40 minutes now down to touchdown. What is the mood like there at the tracking center in Bengaluru?
Well, mood is upbeat. Remember, those preloaded programs have been put on board. It's just a matter of time before the onboard systems take over around 5:44 and start the automatic landing sequence. Not much for the scientists here to do post that. Just waiting and hoping that the onboard systems and all programs work properly and a soft landing can be achieved. A few scientists we've been talking since early in the morning are saying that perhaps the final phase, that's known as the terminal descent phase, which would be roughly around 4 minutes 33 seconds when this particular lander starts hovering. Many of them saying that would be the crucial one to ensure that it can soft land without impacting the lander, although the legs of this lander has been strengthened further, but they're saying that's one crucial phase. The multiple phases before that, when the power descent begins, ISRO and also these scientists saying that all that has gone according to plan in Chandrayaan 2, so unlikely that we would get it wrong. The final phase, the hovering phase, is when they're hoping that everything.
इसके बाद Harish, I'm going to come back to you in just a second. Srishti is also joining us from Mission Control at the tracking center in Bengaluru. You know, when you've been speaking to scientists, people who've been working on this mission, people who were associated with the previous mission, what changes have they made and how and why are they feeling much more confident now as opposed to what happened last time, Srishti?
Yeah, it's a sense of deja vu. We were here in 2019 when ISRO had last attempted a soft landing on the moon. There was again a lot of excitement which turned into disappointment just minutes into the touchdown phase. This time, however, it's brimming with enthusiasm and there is confidence, much more confidence than the last time. And it has come from the series of preparations, ground test and sensor testing that ISRO has undertaken over the last 4 years. Multiple ground tests have been conducted to make sure that the lander can successfully land on the moon. Like you said, this time we have a much larger landing site to ensure that whenever the lander is taking a decision to land, it can actually look and for a uniform surface and land. Apart from that, the 4 legs of the lander have also been strengthened, and ISRO has made sure that even if the touchdown velocity is about 3 meters per second, the lander will still be able to withstand their entire weight and successfully land on the moon. Apart from that, ISRO has also given a much more power supply to the lander by adding more solar panels to it. So the landing process is going to begin just when the sunrise is happening on the moon. So that will ensure uninterrupted power supply. And just to add to the information, it's not just the Indian Deep Space Network, the dish antennas of India, but antennas across the entire world would be tracking and monitoring the Chandrayaan 3 lander as it begins its power descent. NASA as well as the European space agencies have also been monitoring this.
All right, so NASA will be monitoring this. The European Space Agency will be monitoring this. I'm going to come back to our reporters in just 1 second. Arunima is there at CSIR in Delhi. I'll go to her in just 1 second. But once it lands, and if the landing is successful, what happens after touchdown? Number one, the Pragyan rover comes down. It conducts, of course, a series of maneuvers on the surface. Number two, what essentially happens is that one side of the panel of the lander that will unfold. Then it creates a kind of a ramp. It's just a few meters. It creates a ramp from the surface of the lander to the lunar surface. A six-wheeled rover, the Pragyan, will then descend from the lander Vikram out onto the moon's surface. Pragyan will move at a very snail's pace, almost like 1 centimeter per second. It will come out of the lander. It will then roll on to the lunar surface and then start scanning the moon's surface. What is it going to be looking for? It's going to be looking for water, traces of water, hydrogen, helium, and of course minerals that are stored on the south side of the moon. It will also in the process leave imprints of the national emblem, the Ashok stump as it were, and it will also have the ISRO insignia on its wheels. So on the tracks on the lunar surface, you're going to see both of those. And then the rover will communicate with the lander. Remember, the orbiter from Chandrayaan 2 is already there in space. So the lander Vikram will be communicating to the orbiter from Chandrayaan 2, and they will be sending back images, data, other messages back to mission control in Bengaluru. So this is how the next set of steps are going to unveil the process, as it were. 35 minutes to go. Let me go back to our reporters. Arunima is also joining us from CSIR. Yesha, I can see, is joining us from Mumbai. Arunima, at the CSIR facility, I believe the who's who is there. You have ministers of the government, members from the Department of Space Technology are there. And also, I believe the Prime Minister will be watching this live in Johannesburg on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. Walk us through what you're seeing around you.
Yes, let me begin by giving you a sense of this auditorium. It's not a very big auditorium, a small one here, but it's packed to capacity, and there are screens that have been set up outside as well. The minister himself is here, sir. Just one question, nervous or confident? Are you feeling the butterflies in your stomach? Confident. And any last minute message to Team ISRO, sir?
We will speak after it's over.
Sir doesn't want to speak much. He says he will speak after the event is over, but he says he's confident. So Dr. Jitendra Singh is here. You can also see CSIR and the other officials from the Science and Technology Department who are all attending this screening. There is a miniature of the rover that has been put in here, and there are school students waving the flags. These are students who have come here. Let me begin by asking this boy here. What's really the mood here? How's the Josh? Hi, he says, Zaka, and that represents the mood here for most of the students. Excited, some of them are already in their minds raring to go join India's budding space technology program.
All right, Arunima, clearly schools across the National Capital Region and indeed other cities as well have sent out messages. They've sent out YouTube links. In fact, if you want to watch this on YouTube, just go to CNN News 18. The top stream there is the #1 stream in the country right now. 100,000 people are watching it live right now on the CNN News 18 YouTube handle. So what exactly is the Pragyan rover and the Vikram lander going to explore on the surface of the moon? Remember, when Chandrayaan 1, the first mission, went there, it looked at the possibility of water. Basis that, now there is a larger area that is in the permanent shadow of the moon. Remember, the south side receives far less sunlight than the equatorial region or other regions of the lunar surface. So the main aim will be to try and find if there is traces of water. The shadowy surface is believed to have much more water ice. The temperatures there are well below freezing. In fact, minus 2,000 degrees or minus 200 degrees. It could hold up to 100 million tons of water. The frozen time capsule, the temperatures there, like I said, could be minus 200. Just wrap your head around that for a second. Water freezes at 0 degrees. This is minus 200, which means it could preserve natural materials. It could preserve raw materials. And these insights and geological sort of developments will be priceless for ISRO scientists to learn as to whether there are insights into traces of hydrogen, methane, other gases which are essential for life to sustain, whether those traces can be found. Not just those gases, minerals like sodium, mercury, silver, sources of precious metals. These are things that the rover will be exploring, and that data, whether it's in the form of pictures or messages, will be transmitted to the lander, and from the lander eventually to mission control. Now, the future explorations are also getting aided because of these lunar missions, because once you learn how to land on the moon, it certainly helps you with putting a man in space, the Gaganyaan mission that's coming up, and also there is Mangalyaan, the mission to Mars. So this is critical, and it's an ideal pit stop in that sense for future missions as well. Let me go back to our reporters. There is huge excitement all around the country, like I said, in schools. People are offering havans and prayers, namaz. It is incredible, the kind of scenes that you're seeing from across the country. This is, better than a cricket match, if you were to put it that way. So let me go across. If Yesha is there, and Purnima is also joining us from Chennai. So Purnima has a bunch of school students. Purnima, where are you, and what is the mood like there? I see a lot of enthusiastic school kids around you.
Absolutely. We are coming to you live from Ispahani Center, where Space Kids and Aeronautics startup has in fact organized the screening. And Smriti ma'am, you're the founder. A lot of kids are now eagerly waiting, many of them wanting to join ISRO in the future, considering the success so far, and also many of them confident that at 6 or 4 p.m. there's going to be a soft landing.
Absolutely. I mean, the atmosphere is so energetic and so positive, because in being with children, that's the best part, and, they're not bothered about what happened to Chandrayaan 2. It's all forgotten. They want to know what is happening to Chandrayaan 3 and how successful this is going to be. No fingers crossed. Everybody said we are going to be with open fingers, and we would say, yes, it is going to be a super successful launch.
That's the kind of excitement here. Are you excited, nervous, confident? What is the feeling like?
I'm very excited, and I don't have words to express my excitement.
Right. So, are you excited, nervous? Yes, because some of them are still, we're hoping that everything goes well. Some of them are nervous. What is the feeling like for you? What's the mood here?
It will go well. I'm very excited, and I believe that Chandrayaan 3 will land on South Pole. We are the first on.
What is your message to the team in the making of Chandrayaan 3?
I want to thank the scientists who worked for hard works for the Chandrayaan 3, and we will pray for them.
So it's, what happens is, like, the scientist fraternity is always forgotten. The innovation comes in the front, and this, this day is only remembered today. And maybe it hits the headlines maybe tomorrow or day after, but it's forgotten very soon. So this is what we want. There should be something that is continuously pumping, and this has to go and reach the grassroots students. And, the last student of the country also should understand the importance of being a scientist, importance of being an innovator for the country. After all, we all, want to do something for the country. It's not that we need to be in the armed forces to do something for the country. Every innovation is important, So that's the reason I'm so happy, thankful to all the media houses who are actually spreading this awareness so much. And every school in the country, I think small or big, are having this screening. And today is a very big day. Yeah.
All right, Purnima, I'm just going to come back to you in a second. We have other reporters as well. Our guests are there. Gaur Raza, scientist, is there with us. Smita Purushottam, space expert. Dr. Priya Hassan is also joining us, professor from Manu. But I'm going to come to our guests in just 1 second. So why is the Chandrayaan 3 mission so important for ISRO, for Indian space research, and of course, for the pride of 1 billion plus Indians? Number one, it shows that India's tech capabilities in space exploration are unparalleled. It will boost the morale of not just the space community, but the entire scientific community here in India. The mission will also foster a sense of national pride. Remember, only 3 other countries have undertaken successful moon missions. India will become the 4th. It also promotes indigenous research and development at a fraction of the cost. In fact, the entire Chandrayaan 3 mission is a fraction of what big Hollywood budget movies are. It's just about 600 crores. The sector has the potential to create lakhs of jobs. The space exploration sector, both in the private as well as in the government sectors, it will attract more private investment into space technology. At a time when SpaceX and other space companies are sending tourists to space, India and ISRO could be doing it at a fraction of the cost. It will also position India among the top 4 tech advanced nations. Remember, only the US, the former Soviet Union and China have undertaken successful moon missions. India will be the 4th in the world. It will also pave the way for more international collaborations. Remember, as Srishti was saying a moment ago, NASA is tracking this, the European Space Agency is tracking this. All the world's eyes in that sense are on ISRO and are on Chandrayaan 3, because this is what it boils down to, ladies and gentlemen. In less than half an hour, we will have the final descent begin. The automated landing sequence will kick in. Let me go across to Professor Gaur Raza. What is the sense of occasion here for us? Just paint it for the 1 billion Indians who are watching this with bated breath. What does today's moment mean for them and mean for folks like you in the scientific community?
The question has been asked repeatedly whenever there has been a high point, and this is high point for not only scientists, not only for the country, but the entire scientific community, especially those who are working on space research. It is a moment where everybody is excited. And as you said, and most of us know, that the entire scientific community is looking at us and is interested in what is the result finally of the exam that is at the moment going on for Indian scientific community. What is going to be the result? So it's a high point. The palpitation is high. One has fears. As a scientist, I must tell you, we always are ready.
All right, Professor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're getting live footage now from Mission Control. These are live pictures coming in from the Space Control Room in Mission Headquarters in Bengaluru in ISRO. You can see the row of scientists who are all tracking the developments. This is the trajectory that it is supposed to take, the Vikram lander. At 5:45, in exactly 20 minutes from now, the final descent will begin. These are tense moments. This is the ISRO chief, Mr. Somanathan. You can recognize him from the back. This is the leadership team that is sitting at the back row. Of course, in the front rows will be the people who are directly involved in the mission. This is a moment that is being waited with bated breath. Remember, for all of us here, this is a moment of pride. But spare a thought for these folks. They have put years and years of their lives' work, blood and sweat and tears and toil for this one moment, and this is what it boils down to. The next 20 minutes decides that fate. And as Professor Gaur Raza was saying, success is great, success is many fathers, but you learn much, much more from failure. So the images from 4 years ago will also be there in the back of the minds of some of these people who are directly involved with this mission. You heard from the ISRO chief saying sometime back that they have learned their lessons from the 2019 failure. They have adapted and made changes. And I want to ask our guests, as we stay full frame on these pictures, I want to ask our guests, and I'll start with Professor Raza, what are the changes that have been made? What is this moment right now as we're seeing this live feed of the Mission Control Room in Bengaluru at the tracking center, the ISRO tracking center in Bengaluru? What does this moment mean, sir, for scientists who've been working on this mission for the last 4 years?
They have learnt a lot. ISRO scientists have continuously, for generations in fact, generations of ISRO scientists have worked on major projects. These projects were not initiated a day earlier or a year earlier or a decade earlier. These projects were initiated long ago. And they have learnt, and they are today confident that there is going to be soft landing. The major changes that have been made after learning the thing is that there has to be full control within the lander to decide where to land. The area which it is going to scan this time is much larger.
Interrupting you, but can we go back to full frame pictures? There is commentary coming of what is going on.
के सतह पर उतरने के ऐतिहासिक पलों को देखने के लिए तैयार और उत्सुक हैं। जी हाँ, इसरो के गौरवपूर्ण इतिहास में एक और अध्याय जुड़ने जा रहा है और आज हम सब लोग इसके साक्षी बनेंगे। आप ये सारे विजुअल्स अपने स्क्रीन पर इसरो के मिशन ऑपरेशन कॉम्प्लेक्स यानी मॉक से देख रहे हैं, जो कि बेंगलुरु में स्थित टेलीमेट्री ट्रैकिंग एंड कमांड नेटवर्क इस ट्रैक से प्रसारित किया जा रहा है। ये विजुअल्स आपको पावर डिसेंट के काउंटडाउन और उस पथ को प्रदर्शित कर रहा है जिस पे चलकर लैंडर आज चंद्रमा के साउथ पोल पे सेफ और सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग करेगा। आपको ध्यान दिला दूं, इस समय हम लोग पावर डिसेंट शुरू होने से लगभग 22 मिनट दूर हैं। जो दर्शक थोड़ी देर से जुड़े हैं उनकी जानकारी के लिए बता दें, आप लोग इस ऐतिहासिक पल को इसरो के ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट, फेसबुक, ट्विटर और यूट्यूब पे भी देख सकते हैं।
Honorable dignitaries, delegates, scientists, media personnel, and dear viewers, a very good evening to all of you. We at ISRO welcome you to the live coverage of India's prestigious Chandrayaan 3 mission's landing event on the lunar surface. These are the visuals from Mission Operation Complex at ISRO's Telemetry Tracking and Command Network, ISTRAC, situated in Namma, Bengaluru, Karnataka. I, Arushi Seth, and my colleague, Dr. Padamdeo Mishra, are your hosts for the evening and shall accompany you on the journey of the landing event from powered descent start to touchdown. Today, we shall be witnessing the final phase of the critical and most technologically challenging mission operations of Chandrayaan 3, wherein the lander module will be making a safe and soft landing on the surface of the moon. These display screens show the countdown to the power descent start as well as the path that will be followed by the lander module. We are 18 minutes away from the commencement of power descent. India is at the brink of creating history as we all await with bated breath to witness the landing on Moon's south polar region.
Coming from the Mission Operation Control in Bengaluru, it is the tracking center that ISRO has built. You can see the faces, some of the tense faces in these final moments. We are less than 20 minutes away from the final powered descent of the Vikram lander. And the area where it's going to land is on the south pole of the moon. It's an area that is 4.5 kilometers long and 2.5 kilometers wide. It's a much wider area than last time around.
अगर मैं सही मायने में कहूं तो अंतरिक्ष का कोई भी मिशन हो और चाहे किसी भी देश के द्वारा संचालित किया जा रहा हो, इसरो मिशन की निश्चितता और अनिश्चितता के बीच बहुत ही महीन अंतर होता है, जिससे कि एक मिशन सफल या असफल होता है। लेकिन ना हम थके ना हम हारे। हमने पिछली कमियों को सुधारते हुए आज पूरी तरह से आश्वस्त किया है कि लैंडर मॉड्यूल निश्चित तौर पे चंद्रमा के सतह पर सेफ और सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग करेगा। सभी दर्शकों के जानकारी के लिए अब हम इसरो के अब तक के सभी लूनर मिशंस को संक्षिप्त विवरण प्रस्तुत करेंगे। जी हाँ, इसरो का पहला मून मिशन चंद्रयान 1 अक्टूबर 2008 में PSLV रॉकेट के द्वारा सफलतापूर्वक प्रक्षेपित किया गया था। चंद्रयान 1 ने चंद्रमा के सतह पर पानी की खोज करके पहले ही इतिहास रच चुका है। यही कारण है कि आजकल विश्व के तमाम अंतरिक्ष वैज्ञानिक और स्पेस एजेंसियां चंद्रमा को और करीब से जानने के लिए उत्सुक दिख रही हैं। अगर हम बात करें चंद्रयान 2 की, जो इसरो का दूसरा मिशन है, जुलाई 2019 में इसरो के सबसे ताकतवर रॉकेट LVM-3 द्वारा सफलतापूर्वक प्रक्षेपित किया गया था और आज भी लगभग 4 साल बाद यह चंद्रमा के 100 किलोमीटर के सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट में घूमते हुए बहुत ही उत्तम क्वालिटी का डेटा प्रदान कर रहा है। मिशन के प्रारंभ में इसकी आयु 1 साल निर्धारित की गई थी, परंतु LVM-3 द्वारा बहुत ही सटीक इंजेक्शन और मिशन मैनेजमेंट की वजह से चंद्रयान 2 काफी लंबे समय तक कार्यरत रहेगा। अब तक चंद्रयान 2 चंद्रमा के लगभग सभी भागों का चित्र ले चुका है। इसका एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण पेलोड OHRC यानी कि ऑर्बिटर हाई रेजोल्यूशन कैमरा विश्व का सबसे बेहतरीन कैमरा है, जो कि चंद्रमा की सतह का लगातार पिक्चर भेज रहा है। अब मैं ROC जी से निवेदन करूंगा कि वो आप लोगों को इसरो के वर्तमान मिशन चंद्रयान 3 के बारे में बताएं।
अभी आपने मिश्रा जी के द्वारा सुना इसरो के अब तक के लूनार मिशंस का विवरण। अब चलते हैं टुवर्ड्स चंद्रयान 3, the follow-up mission of Chandrayaan 2, which has been designed to accomplish our mission goals. The primary objective of Chandrayaan 3 mission is the demonstration of safe and soft landing on the lunar surface. This demonstration is a critical aspect for ISRO's future interplanetary missions. In addition to this, the mission objectives also include demonstration of roving capability and conduction of in situ scientific experiments on Moon's surface. Carried on the shoulders of India's heaviest rocket LVM-3 on the 14th of July, Chandrayaan 3 was placed in the precise elliptic parking orbit of size 170 by 36,500 kilometers. ISRO, in its mission plan of following the incremental trajectory approach, carried a total of 5 earthbound maneuvers. The fifth apogee raising maneuver, which took place on the 25th of July, placed the spacecraft in an orbit of 250 by 1,27,000 kilometers. At the early hours of 1st August, the translunar injection was carried out, after which the composite module began the final leg of its long journey of nearly 3,84,000 kilometers for its rendezvous with the Moon. The TLI was a key step in the mission, enabling the spacecraft to escape Earth's gravitational pull and travel to the Moon. An orbit of 288 by 3,69,328 kilometers was achieved at the end of the translunar injection.
जी हाँ, ट्रांसलूनर इंजेक्शन किसी भी इंटरप्लेनेटरी मिशन के लिए बहुत ही आवश्यक परंतु कठिन ऑपरेशन होता है। इस सफल मैन्यूवर के बाद चंद्रयान 3 पृथ्वी से दूर निकलकर चंद्रमा के प्रभाव क्षेत्र में एक हाइपरबोलिक ट्रेजेक्टरी के द्वारा पहुंचाया गया। पुनः 5 अगस्त 2023 को लूनर ऑर्बिट इंसर्शन के द्वारा चंद्रयान 3 को 160 किलोमीटर के पेरीलून और 18,000 किलोमीटर के अपोलून के साथ चंद्रमा के इलिप्टिकल ऑर्बिट में स्थापित कर दिया गया। TLI के तरह LOI भी एक बहुत जटिल ऑपरेशन होता है। इसमें हमें यह ध्यान देना आवश्यक होता है कि उपग्रह के वेगमान को एक निश्चित बिंदु से घटाया जा सके, अन्यथा उपग्रह चंद्रमा के प्रभाव क्षेत्र से बाहर निकल जाएगा। LOI के सफलतापूर्वक परिचालन के बाद चंद्रयान 3 की कक्षा को 4 बार और परिवर्तित किया गया। इस दौरान चंद्रमा की अधिकतम ऊंचाई को घटाकर 160 किलोमीटर कर दिया गया। इस पूरी प्रक्रिया में प्रपल्सन मॉड्यूल का लगभग 755 किलोग्राम ईंधन का उपयोग हुआ और चंद्रयान 3 के वेगमान को लगभग 850 मीटर प्रति सेकंड कम कर दिया गया। लैंडर मॉड्यूल को लगभग 150 किलोमीटर के सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट में स्थापित करने के बाद 17 अगस्त 2023 को प्रपल्सन मॉड्यूल से अलग कर दिया गया। पुनः लैंडर मॉडल के ऑर्बिट को 2 डीबूस्ट मैन्यूवर्स के द्वारा 150 किलोमीटर के सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट से घटाकर 25 गुणे 130 किलोमीटर के एलिप्टिकल ऑर्बिट में स्थापित कर दिया गया। इस दौरान यह भी सुनिश्चित कर दिया गया कि 800 न्यूटन के चारों थ्रोटेबल थ्रस्टर्स पावर डिसेंट के समय किसी भी चुनौती का सामना कर सकें। लैंडर मॉड्यूल इस ऑर्बिट में 4 दिन तक चंद्रमा की परिक्रमा करता रहा ताकि इसके सभी सब सिस्टम को पावर डिसेंट से पहले कार्यात्मक रूप से वेरीफाई और वैलिडेट किया जा सके। इस दौरान चंद्रयान 2 और लैंडर मॉड्यूल की आपस में बातचीत भी हो चुकी है। और संक्षेप में अब तक की यात्रा की बात करें तो लैंडर मॉड्यूल अब तक 21 बार पृथ्वी के और लगभग 120 बार चंद्रमा का चक्कर लगा चुका है और इस पूरी यात्रा में लगभग 55 लाख किलोमीटर की यात्रा भी पूरी कर चुका है। अब तक के इस पूरे अभियान में यह भी सुनिश्चित किया गया कि सारे ऑर्बिट मैन्यूवर्स इस प्रकार किए जाएं कि लैंडिंग साइट पावर डिसेंट की शुरुआत से ही लैंडर के ऑर्बिटल प्लेन में बना रहे।
Make it further complicated. That is true indeed. We have arrived at the crucial juncture wherein the orbit plane contains the desired landing site at the start of powered descent. We are also happy to announce that live images from the Chandrayaan-3 lander imager camera is being received continuously. The demonstration of soft landing on the moon's surface is no ordinary feat due to the innumerable challenges and complexities involved. The lander velocity has to be killed from nearly 6,048 kilometers per hour without any aid from the thin and tenuous moon's atmosphere. The lunar dust at the time of landing and the craters and boulders scattered over the moon's surface make it further complicated to achieve this. The new and improved Chandrayaan-3 design has been built after envisaging all the scenarios which the lander module can encounter. With several software improvements, provision for full-level redundancies, a plethora of special tests, namely the integrated hot test, integrated cold test, and lander leg drop tests were carried out for the lander module. The success of these tests has provided great confidence in the performance of all the onboard sensors, propulsion system, and associated guidance, control, and navigation algorithms. The key findings during the tests have enabled to improve the overall system performance. The largely unexplored south pole of the moon has been chosen as the intended landing site, since there is a possibility of finding ice and other minerals which would be vital resources for future explorers. Apart from continuing investigations pioneered by Chandrayaan-1 and Chandrayaan-2, the Chandrayaan-3 mission will also provide invaluable data to the science community around the world. Let us give our viewers a glimpse on the configuration of Chandrayaan-3 mission.
चंद्रयान 3 का मिशन प्लान लगभग चंद्रयान 2 के तरह ही बनाया गया है। यहाँ यह भी सुनिश्चित किया गया है कि चंद्रयान 3 को रॉकेट से अलग होने से लेकर के चंद्रमा के निकटतम कक्षा में स्थापित होने तक सारी गतिविधियां चंद्रयान 2 के तरह ही हों। और अब हम यह कह सकते हैं कि यह प्लान पूरी तरह से 100% सफल रहा। हालांकि लैंडर मॉड्यूल के सेंसर्स और प्रोपल्शन सिस्टम को इस तरह से मजबूत किया गया है कि लैंडर पावर डिसेंट के समय किसी भी आपदा से बाहर आकर के मिशन के मुख्य उद्देश्य को पूरा कर सके। इस क्रम में लैंडर के मुख्य सेंसर्स कारा, लासा, LHBC, LDV और LHDAC का कार्यात्मक परीक्षण भी किया जा चुका है। LDV जो कि पूर्णतः स्वदेशी तकनीकी से बनाया गया एक नया सेंसर है, इसका मुख्य कार्य लैंडर के वेलोसिटी को तीनों अक्षों में कंप्यूट करना है। पावर डिसेंट के दौरान लैंडर के सटीक पोजीशन और वेलोसिटी का ज्ञान होना बहुत ही आवश्यक है। लिराप यानी लेजर इनर्शियल रिफरेंसिंग एंड एक्सीलरोमीटर पैकेज इस कार्य को पावर डिसेंट के दौरान बखूबी निभाएगा। ट्रैजेक्टरी जनरेशन जो कि चंद्रयान 3 मिशन के लिए बहुत ही अहम है, क्योंकि हर ऑर्बिट मैन्यूवर के बाद यह सुनिश्चित किया जाता है कि लैंडर की मिशन ऑब्जेक्टिव को ना बदले। इस क्रम में मैं यह भी आपको बता दूं कि ऑर्बिट डिटर्मिनेशन जो कि उपग्रह के पोजीशन और वेलोसिटी को बहुत ही एक्यूरेटली बताता है, एक बहुत ही कठिन और जटिल कंप्यूटेशन और एस्टिमेशन होता है। यहाँ यह भी जानना महत्वपूर्ण है कि चंद्रयान 2 का OHRC पेलोड अब तक काफ़ी ऊंचे स्तर का डैम प्रदान किया है, जिसके फलस्वरूप लैंडिंग साइट के सीमा को बढ़ाकर 4x2.4 किलोमीटर कर दिया गया है, जो कि पावर डिसेंट के दौरान सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग कराने में काफ़ी सहायक सिद्ध होगा।
Apart from the sensors, Chandrayaan 3 is equipped with a suite of sophisticated payload instruments. While Chandrayaan 1 and Chandrayaan 2 orbiter have provided abundant remote sensing data of Moon, equally important are the on-site localized measurements that provide ground truths. Lander and rover have payloads which are completely new and will perform in situ analysis of lunar surface. The two spectroscopes on rover, APXS and LIBS, will actively measure the surface elemental abundances at the landing location and surrounding area. The lander carries a seismometer ILSA that can sense impact events and lunar quakes. The thermal probe CHAST will measure the temperature profile and thermal conductivity of Moon's regolith. The Rambha payload will carry out lunar ionosphere studies, while the laser retroreflector array shall be a passive location indicator for future spacecraft equipped with laser altimeter. The propulsion module has not been left behind, and an experimental shape payload has been added to it as a value addition. It will help in understanding the nature and characteristics of water-rich planets and will also aid in the future study of potentially habitable exoplanets. We are minutes away from the start of powered descent. The entire powered descent shall be carried out by the onboard autonomous landing sequencer, or ALS, which is a series of instructions preloaded to the lander module. These instructions include the commands to be executed, data to be collected and analyzed, and decisions to be made and executed autonomously throughout the powered descent.
जी हाँ, अब हम पावर डिसेंट के बहुत ही करीब आ चुके हैं। हम आपको बताते चलें कि पावर डिसेंट को कुल 4 चरणों में बांटा गया है। सबसे पहले आता है रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज, जिसमें लैंडर की ऊंचाई को चंद्रमा की सतह से 30 किलोमीटर से घटाकर 7.4 किलोमीटर कर दिया जाएगा। इस पूरी प्रक्रिया को पूरा करने में लगभग 11.5 मिनट लगेगा और इसका समानांतर वेग 1680 मीटर प्रति सेकंड से घटाकर 358 मीटर प्रति सेकंड हो जाएगा।
We have continuous flow of lander telemetry data from ISRO's Deep Space Network IDSN-32 located in Belalu, Bengaluru. The data is being acquired real-time by station and is flown to the Mission Operation Complex through our communication links. In addition to it, we also have support from ESA and JPL DSN stations. There will be no ground intervention once the ALS takes charge. The preparation for today's event had started 48 hours before, wherein various pre-selections and uplinking of parameters for the autonomous landing sequence were carried out. The whole descent is divided into 4 phases: the rough braking phase, the attitude hold phase, fine braking phase, and the local navigation phase or the terminal descent phase.
जी हाँ, एटीट्यूड होल्ड फेज, जो कि पावर डिसेंट का दूसरा चरण है, एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण फेज है। इस 10 सेकंड के स्मॉल ड्यूरेशन के दौरान लैंडर के 2 महत्वपूर्ण सेंसर कारा और लासा लैंडर की ऊंचाई की गणना करेंगे। इस फेज के पूरा होते ही लैंडर चंद्रमा के सतह से कुल 6.8 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई पर होगा।
During the rough braking phase, the lander velocity shall be brought down from 1680 meters per second to 358 meters per second. The altitude will be brought down from 30 kilometers to 7.4 kilometers at the end of rough braking.
So we are just moments away from touchdown. In less than 4 minutes from now, the Vikram lander will start the automated landing sequence. The powered descent will begin in less than 4 minutes from now. This is the moment of truth. The powered descent will then continue for the next 15 minutes. At 6:04 is when we are expecting the touchdown to happen. The powered descent, the landing will happen in 4 sequences: the rough braking phase, the holding phase, the fine braking phase, and the last 150 meters. So India, the Indian Space Research Organization, all set to script history within the next few minutes These are the last 15 minutes that will determine the trajectory and the history of Chandrayaan 3 as we get this live footage from Mission Operations Control in ISRO at the tracking center, where scientists, the leadership team of ISRO is all monitoring this real-time data. In the next 3 minutes, the powered descent is going to begin. It is well and truly going to be India's date with the moon. The powered descent will be in 4 separate stages. Basically, you have to stop something that is powering itself at the speed of 10 times that of an aircraft down to just a few hundred meters per second. From 6,000 kilometers per hour down to a few hundred meters per second. Let's go back to the live feed that's coming in from ISRO Mission Control in Bengaluru.
इस पड़ाव पे आने के बाद पुनः लैंडर 22 सेकंड के लिए हॉवरिंग करेगा।
Is just minutes away. In fact, in 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, the powered descent of ISRO will begin. These are live pictures from the center in Delhi, where MOSPMO and Earth Sciences, Jitendra Singh is watching this. Other VVIPs are watching this. This has been put up in Delhi, and this is live pictures that are coming from Mission Operations Control, the tracking service that is there, the tracking room at the ISRO headquarters in Bengaluru. You can see the leadership team, ISRO chairman Mr. Somanathan at the back seat, the other leadership team of the ISRO at the back seat, and those who are directly involved in this mission right in the front seats. We are now counting down to the final minute when the powered descent begins.
Dear viewers, the pivotal power descent has begun, and the lander module is propelling towards the moon's surface along the intended trajectory.
It has begun, ladies and gentlemen. The powered descent has begun. Now the next 15 minutes is going to be make or break. You can see applause. Applause at the Mission Operations Control in ISRO headquarters in Bengaluru, because those scientists there know the importance of this moment. The powered descent has begun. The rough braking phase is on right now. This is going to last for the next 15 minutes. And this is where the speed of the Chandrayaan, the Vikram lander, has to be reduced from 6,000 kilometers per hour to just a few hundred meters per second. This is the live footage that is coming. The next 15 minutes, a billion eyes, a billion prayers on these scientists and at this mission control room in Bengaluru. Let's go back right to the live feed.
हाँ, अभी आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर अब तक कुल 191 किलोमीटर हॉरिजेंटल दिशा में चल चुका है और अभी तक इसकी वेलोसिटी लगभग 31 किलोमीटर बनी हुई है।
So the powered descent has begun, ladies and gentlemen. The powered descent is the final phase. It's the final 15 minutes that decides the fate of Chandrayaan 3 mission. The final descent has begun. You can see over the next 15 minutes or so, it has to be brought down from just 6,000 kilometers per hour down to just 100 meters a second. Live feed coming in from Mission Operations Control Room in ISRO headquarters in Bengaluru. This is clearly the make or break moment, the last 15 minutes of terror, as the scientists would call it. Let's go back to the live feed that we're getting. This is a live camera output. They've got an animation, a live animation that is coming down as well to the ISRO mission control as scientists, technicians, engineers wait with bated breath for that moment, 6:04, when there will be a safe and successful touchdown.
Will reduce from 7.4 kilometers to 6.8 kilometers. During the next phase, which is going to be the attitude hold phase. We can currently see that the altitude of the lander module is nearly 31 kilometers.
RUCC अभी हम इस ग्राउंड ट्रेस को देखते हुए कह सकते हैं कि रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज की शुरुआत बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से हुई है। आप ये देख सकती हैं कि जो भी प्रोजेक्टेड ग्राउंड ट्रेस है उसी पे अपना लैंडर मॉड्यूल आगे चलते हुए बढ़ रहा है। अभी तक ये देखा जा सकता है कि लैंडर मॉड्यूल लगभग 370 किलोमीटर 36 दिशा में चल चुका है।
So about 350 kilometers have been traversed already. Remember that final phase is about 15 minutes long. It has to come down from 6,000 kilometers per hour down to just 100 meters per second. The lander module already completing about 350 kilometers, moving fast towards the lunar surface. As of right now, as of this moment, all parameters are showing normal and it is on trajectory for a successful soft landing on the south side of the moon. You can see this live tracker as you see the Chandrayaan 3 mission, the Vikram lander moving. This is that small little dot. It's moving straight down into the lunar gravity. It's right now in what is called the rough braking phase. Let's go back to the live feed.
There is no ground intervention as the ALS has taken charge. The preparation for today's event had started nearly 48 hours before, wherein various pre-selections and uplinking of parameters were done. We can see that the vertical velocity of the lander module has been brought down. It is continuously coming down. And the ALS had already been initiated 1 hour before the scheduled time of the power descent start. Following this, the throttleable engine electronics module, the TECM, was switched on and lander was oriented to the favorable attitude.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर मॉड्यूल जिसकी शुरुआत में वेलोसिटी 1680 मीटर पर सेकंड थी, लगभग 1150 मीटर पर सेकंड हो चुकी है, जो कि एक बहुत ही मैजेस्टिक शुरुआत कही जा सकती है इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज के लिए।
So remember, in this rough braking phase, you have both the horizontal velocity and the vertical velocity. The horizontal velocity has been brought down to about 1100 kilometers per hour from above 6,000. The vertical velocity right now is 27 meters per second. So at one point, they will have to balance out the horizontal velocity and the vertical velocity, and then the lander itself moves from horizontal position to vertical position. So you can see these two figures. This is consistently falling, and this you will see consistently going up. The horizontal velocity and the vertical velocity, just keep an eye out on both of those figures.
Currently, the horizontal velocity has been brought down and the distance traveled is 574 kilometers. The current altitude is 27 kilometers as can be seen on the screen.
जी हाँ, करीब अपने आधे सफ़र को पूरा करते हुए इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज में लैंडर बहुत ही आगे की तरफ बढ़ते हुए अपनी ऊंचाई को घटा रहा है। अगर अब बात करें तो लैंडर की ऊंचाई चंद्रमा के सतह से लगभग 27 किलोमीटर से नीचे हो चुकी है, करीब 26.7 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
The next phase after the rough braking phase is the attitude hold phase, which will be for a duration of nearly 10 seconds. The lander will be oriented such that both the altimeters will be looking exactly towards the moon's surface. At the end of this attitude hold phase, height measurement update to navigation system will be given from the laser and car band altimeters. Currently, we are in the middle of the rough braking phase.
जी हाँ, अगर हम ध्यान से देखें
So half the distance has been traversed. We are in the middle of the journey of over 1,000 kilometers in this last 15 minutes. Over 500 kilometers has been covered. The horizontal velocity is consistently coming down. It's come down to 885. The vertical velocity is going up. It's gone up to 53. They have to at some point match both, and then it goes from a horizontal position to a vertical position, and then the hovering phase begins. Right now in the rough braking phase, more than half the distance has been traversed. More than 500 kilometers has been traveled horizontally. The final half begins right now.
The altitude of lander from ground is currently 22 kilometer, which is again going to be coming down, and that is expected.
For the viewers who have joined now, we are in the powered descent phase, and we are in the rough braking phase, which is the first phase of the powered descent. We have currently traveled a downrange of 697 kilometers, and the downrange that has to be traveled during this phase is 713.5 kilometers.
जी हाँ, अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी लगभग 720 मीटर प्रति सेकंड हो गई है। लगभग हम ये कह सकते हैं कि 900 मीटर प्रति सेकंड वेलोसिटी को कम किया जा चुका है। At the same time, we can see the altitude of the lander is just 17.8 kilometer from the moon surface, which is going to be around 7.4 at the end of the rough braking phase.
All right, so the rough braking phase is still going on. Remember, the horizontal velocity has come from 6,000 kilometers per hour down to just 650. The vertical velocity has been going up. Like I've been saying, it at some point matches and then it goes from horizontal to vertical, and then the final descent, the hovering phase and the descent phase will start. But right now, we are going close to the end of the first phase, the rough braking phase. More than 700 kilometers needed to be traversed, and we are just getting to that figure of 700 kilometers that has been traversed in phase 1. Let's go back to the live feed. 753 kilometers traversed so far.
जी हाँ, इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज के दौरान 800 न्यूटन के चारों थ्रोटल इंजन अपने कार्य को पूरी तरह से अंजाम दे रहे हैं और लैंडर के हॉरिजॉन्टल वेलोसिटी को लगातार कम कर रहे हैं। अब तक लैंडर लगभग अपने 75 से 80% की यात्रा को पूरा कर चुका है।
After the rough braking and the attitude hold phase, we shall be having the fine braking phase, which will continue for nearly 3 minutes.
So the rough braking phase, it is under 500 kilometers per hour. We are coming to the end of phase 1. Phase 1 is the rough braking phase. Then you have the holding phase, so it's under 500 kilometers an hour. The vertical velocity has gone up to almost 70 kilometers an hour, and it is less than 1,000. It's about 27 kilometers from the lunar surface.
जी हाँ, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी हम सभी का उत्साहवर्धन करने के लिए दक्षिणी अफ्रीका के जोहान्सबर्ग से जुड़ गए हैं।
You can see the screen right in front. The Prime Minister is also watching this live from the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg. Remember, he is getting a live feed there. He's watching this along with other leaders as well. The Prime Minister is watching this live in Johannesburg at the BRICS Summit. He's of course watching this along with the scientists of ISRO, the engineers, the technicians. The horizontal velocity at 330 kilometers per hour, the vertical velocity at 55 kilometers per hour, and the altitude right now is 5.5 kilometers from the lunar surface. Just 5.5 kilometers from the lunar surface. At the far corner, you can see the Prime Minister's feed. He's watching this from Johannesburg at the BRICS Summit. So you can see the trajectory. This is the height update, and this is the distance that's been traversed. More than 700 kilometers have been traversed in the rough braking phase as we come to the closure of the rough braking phase. Then there is the holding phase, and then the fine braking phase begins.
It is going to continue for 3 minutes. And the altitude is going to be reduced to nearly 800 meters at the end of this phase.
जी हाँ, जैसा कि आरुषि जी ने बताया कि लगभग 3 मिनट के उपरांत लैंडर की हाइट लगभग 800 मीटर वर्टिकली होगी और यहाँ पे लैंडर की हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी, वर्टिकल वेलोसिटी, इवन डाउन रेंज भी लगभग शून्य होगा.
We can see the visual of the lander module, and we can see that the downrange traveled is nearly 831 kilometers.
So the Vikram lander has traversed more than 800 kilometers now. Remember, the distance of the final descent, the last 15 minutes, was about 1,000 kilometers. The altitude currently is about 5.5 kilometers from the lunar surface. In fact, it is 2.5 kilometers from the lunar surface. The horizontal velocity has been reduced to just 130 meters per second. The vertical velocity at 26 meters per second. The fine braking phase is now beginning, ladies and gentlemen.
To the moon's surface.
We are
nearly
very
2.6
close to the
as we
moon
can
surface, just 2 kilometers away from the moon surface. The fine braking phase begins. As you see claps going around there, the young scientists, you can see it in their eyes, you can see